Where I've left off is that I have a cursor that I can drag back and forth. This is called the playhead. I can move it back and forth, and up here at the top, it tells me what frame I'm currently looking at. So that is being sent by an event. I actually have not looked up the right way to send events. So as I send this event to this little label up here, that is consuming the event, and I need to also send it to, say, the scene to tell it to update itself, or to the animator to tell it to update itself. Now, maybe I could do that in different ways, but I do want to just see if it's easy to send a mouse event, or to send events the way Block wants me to send it. So real quick, I'm just going to look this up. I'm going to say BL mouse event. I'm just going to pick an event that I know happens to exist. Actually, most mouse. How about BL mouse click event, maybe? You know what? Click event. Okay, so that's something that actually gets sent. So announcement references, where is that actually sent? When be a click event? I want to see, where does it get sent? I don't know where that would be. I'm trying to figure out how do I send this message. Simulate click. That would be a good place. Simulate events. I don't know. I wonder if there's maybe methods here. Send to. Oh, what did I just say send to? No, that doesn't seem right. Got a mouse event. This is probably extremely easy to do, but I just don't know where to send it. So maybe there's a page on BL event. Event dispatcher thing. Event handling and block. How about that? Imagine we have a parent and a child. Both of them have attached drag handlers. Child's not consumed the start event. Oh, this is my notes. As I recorded, these are notes I found. But how do I actually create an event? That was not a page from the documentation. That was just a note I took about Discord. So events, handling a block. We can also look at BL element, because that is like the thing that would send events, and see if it just says something about send event or something like that. So let's look under the protocols and see what the protocols say. Anything about events, event management. Add event filter, when, do once. This is what I want to call. Fire event. I think that's exactly what I want. So I want to say, I think that if I say fire event, this is what I need. So I fire provided event building an event dispatcher chain from target. Let's see, let's click Control N to see who is sending that event, sending that method. Oh, come on. Sending that message. Senders. Fire. Event target fires the event. So the target itself, and then, okay, so you give it to the target, and the target is all right. So I think we can just say tell the timeline to fire this event rather than do anything. So the very first, right. So I have a GsTimeline, and I'm going to use the mechanism that I made. So on frame change is value, and rather than setting it a value, which just is just a symbol that is complicated, but it makes it return itself. When you say something like this, symbols and you say value 5, right? It's going to return 5. And this is a trick so that you can do the same thing as, like, it's like saying, x, right? X return 5. So it takes a parameter named x and then it returns x. And then you pass it. Then to send the value 5 to that object, you use the value method on it. So just the symbol value by itself, or any symbol, you can say like negated value 5, right? And that'll give you negative 5. It would if you spelled it right. Negative 5, right? So anyway, so by you can use a symbol in the in lieu of a block. But new frame, we're going to say I had already made the event in anticipation of doing this. So GS something event, GS frame changed event, new. Frame, new frame, and then we'll say self fire event. Is that what it was called, or was it just fire? That looks like it was approved. All right, so that's not the default way of doing that. So then rather than saying on frame changed here, first of all, let's just run, make sure this still works. That overrides what I did. So, oops, sorry, run this. That's causing that to change. So now we'll just say on or when GS frame changed event do this. Except I think this is E, and then we'll say E frame as string. And that's it. Okay, so that's exactly what I needed it to do. And then, so rather than having this on frame changed thing here, let's get rid of this. And then I probably should look where that was referenced. Now I have to find it. But it's actually right here. So we just say this. Okay. So self-fire, this is exactly what we wanted to do. So if the frame is not equal to the current frame, self-fire event GS frame change event new, and the frame is the frame. Save it, and we will call this UI or events or events. I don't know. Okay, and then we can get rid of this. Now we are using the standard block way of doing things. We don't need this on frame change anymore. One method, where's that method? Make UI. All right, so now here we say when, and we do the same transformation, GS frame changed event, do E, and then again E frame as string. So that's in the GS animator, so we can do that. So now we can get rid of this reference. We can remove it. And double check that this little example still works. It does. And now let's double check that the animator still works. Boom, bouncing square, and then we do this, it moves again. All right, so that was it. So to recap, it is fire event on anything that is so a T is a trait, so any BL event target. Anything that is a BL event target can have a fire event, and it seems that a BL element, block element, is such a thing. Okay. So we've learned something about that. And we'll check this in. And commit. We're going to say GSL use, or we'll say frame on frame change to GS frame change event. And GS frame. There we go. All right, push that to GitHub. This is Engine Storm TS Pharaoh on GitHub. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. Now that we have this thing, now what do we need to do? So we have what we have what? Let's you need to be able to change the protocols for these. So some of these so anything that says make should be in initialization. Make stage should be part of initialization. Make timeline should be part of initialization. Make toolbar should be part of initialization. Make UI should be part of initialization. Part of the last one. Stage size is part of initialization. So now make frame count, that's also initialization. Add track for, that's accessing add scene child. So I'm going to go ahead and commit that as well. Commit GS animator cleanup protocols. Cleanup protocols. Reorganize. Yeah. Okay, so that was so that I could click on this button and see browse again, and I guess we have to regenerate this. Regenerate that. Now it has the initialization set. Okay, so what was I looking for though? I was looking for something to allow me to get at the scene. Add scene child as, but also as to get at the tracks, right? So I really want probably an accessor for timeline. Or maybe not. Maybe I just say timeline, right? In fact, maybe over here. Yeah, I do have that. Okay, so this is the one with the bouncing square. It does not yet bounce. And so what else do I want? I want to say something like, so I want to say timeline, what? Well, we can browse the timeline. And I want to get at, do I have these categorized? Probably not. I do. That's more like event handling and stuff like that. So I'll clean this up later. I want to get at the track. Well, so right now I have this thing called the track model. If we look at track model for this particular one, it should be something similar to this, right? It should be something like this. Because I set it up, I set up a track with for the square position with these keys. So if I say, do I need this anymore? Let me add a to this. Oh, that's interesting. You can't add anything above this. So to add something like this is a Leopard page, meaning like a wiki kind of thing. So you have to add it below and then Alt Shift up. So it's not a big deal. But so then this is scroll testing, scroll testing, and then we can indent this. I would love to assign a keyboard shortcut to it at some point. I just have not done so. Nobody else has done so. So okay, whoops, back here. Frame from playhead. That was the last thing I did that calculated based on the position of the scroll and the position of this, what the frame number is. That way you can do it as it drags, even though you're not fully over one or the other. It's not snapped into place yet. But I don't need that anymore. I don't really need this anymore. But I might make it into like some kind of example or something. All right, so then, but the point of this was I could close it now. So what do I want to do? I want to find the track. So track model. Oh, this is not a Pharaoh thing. So Pharaoh. Track model. And the track model is just that. So in this method, let's see, the animator, you give it to the animator and it just passes it to the timeline. And the timeline adds the track model, and then for each one of those, it adds a track. Has the data, but the data you shouldn't be browsing through the UI to find this data. Right? So we really do want a track model. So how about we call this key, right? Track name. Is this. So the track model is really just the names, but I really want to say like, is there an ordered dictionary? Yes. So let's save this. And actually, let's just look at GsTimeline again. So I want to say in a, let's just look at everything that references the track model. Oops. That's the method I was just working on. And track model equals ordered collection new. So let's call it ordered dictionary new. Ordered dictionary new. Save that. And then here, when we set the items, we're going to add track model keys. And then here, instead of add, we say at put, right? Put 1, 2, 3, right? Is that correct? Yes. I believe. I don't have a order dictionary at put. Yeah, okay, so at put is the. I guess it doesn't know what this is, right? It doesn't know what the. Just because you've assigned it an ordered dictionary, it doesn't know that it's an ordered dictionary. Because it could be anything at any time, because dynamically, variables are not typed. They can be bound to anything at any time. So I wasn't seeing the little arrow, so that was throwing me off. I was confused. Put that, and so we're going to put the keys, I guess. Put a collection. Right? So now, if I go all the way back over here, oh, no, right, over here. And we say, give me the bouncing square, and then I say, now give me the timeline. Or rather, timeline. No, we don't have an accessor for it, so we say track model. Now we have keys. Okay, square. But if we say tree, square position, if we say tree, then we can see all the data. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to change this from just plain data to some kind of object, some kind of class, or at least wrap this ordered dictionary in a thing called a track model. Because at the very end, what I want is loop through a list of objects. And then have an inner loop, which is a list of properties for each object. And ideally, once we have those objects cached, once we know what the tracks are, we just have a list of all the objects that correspond. We just references to those elements directly in the scene, right? We should just keep that cached, so we don't have to look up the by name every time, and until we change the model. And then for each of those objects, we just set the values. And in fact, so the track model would be something like, what is it going to do is we say if the frame has changed, or when the frame changes, give me all the deltas, basically. Give me all the new pieces of information. That makes me think that the GS timeline, maybe I'm prematurely optimizing here, but I would think GS frame changed event should have an old frame as well. Old frame or we say old is frame, or actually old is old is current frame, new is frame. Yeah. Rather than just a raw accessor, we'll say old and new. Method old new, and then frame 0 and new is frame. Old frame equals frame 0. What do you call it? Full frame. And then frame equals frame 1. And then we'll make that a slot. Add slot old frame. And save that. Because now we can say, like, it doesn't make sense if the values in if we say we know what the I guess what I'm thinking is that the track model should probably remember the last value it set for every one of those properties. And then when we say, okay, a new frame, so maybe we don't even need we'll keep this, but maybe for this particular setup, we don't need that piece of information. Maybe that was extra data that we don't need. But I mean, it's probably useful to have it for somebody in the future, so I'm okay with that. I'm not going to undo that change. But I think so. The timeline itself. Should the timeline remember all these values, or the animator remembers? I think the animator should remember. So the animator should say, well, I think we should be able to expose the track model. So track model does not understand, timeline does not understand, and GS timeline does not understand that. So can we say self? Oops. We cannot add it, so the live view doesn't work because it's already existing. And then we can say track model. So I just want to add an accessor for track model. Oh wait, timeline. Wait. And then I guess track model here. Create access. This is probably going to change. It'll probably be named view model or something later. All right, so now then this should work, right? Except that's block UI manager. That's not right. In order dictionary. Yeah, right. So that gives me all the data that's drawn here, but it's not really accessed in a way that makes a lot of sense. The track model, and also it's an ordered dictionary. So let's go ahead and wrap this in an object. So we're going to say GsTimeline initialize track model equals GS track model new. Create that class. It's just data. Is it a view model? I think say UI models, like that. And then I think if we open this up, yeah, we see UI models as well. Okay, I guess it doesn't matter. I guess that just it's only a two-letter. It's not a tree, or it's not. It is a tree, but it's not a deep tree. All right, so GS animation track. We need a model for the track, maybe, but so the GS track model, and we're going to give it a comment. And what does this do? What is the point of this thing? This is going to be I. What do you do? What do you do, Mr. GS track model? Well, as a GS track model, I represent the tracks in a GS animation GT class GS animation a GS timeline. A GS timeline. I represent the tracks in a GS. I represent the data. I hold the data, the tracks and keyframes in a GS timeline. Maybe this is more complicated. Maybe this should be like a timeline model, right? Or multi-track model or something like that. And track and calculate differences between and store references to the corresponding scene elements, corresponding named scene elements in GS scene. GS scene is not really anything special yet. It's just a arbitrary BL element, I believe. I don't think it has anything special in it. It matches its parent or something like that. It's a subclass of GS group, but GS group was something that was left over from the processing days, and probably I would just get rid of that. There are no references to it. Yeah. It only has one child. GS grid and GS scene. GS grid, is that even used? I say we delete this. And then, yeah, that's weird. Track model. That completely changed my context. I just lost my, like everything changed to this thing. maybe it changed the. Where I have 3 packages here open. That's not what I want. GsTrackModel had a comment, and I said I was clicking on GsScene, and then GsScene has initialize. I said it was a GS group, and it is a GS group. I said GS group can go away. What if I just delete this? Will this become a GS object? I don't know. GsTrackModel comment, GsScene, an obsolete GS group. Okay, so it renamed it to an obsolete GS group. So it's really just GS object, and really does nothing except because it's a GS object. You don't have to say constraints too. You can just say match parent. And I believe that still works, right? Just double check that this didn't break anything. Everything's still fine. Okay. Eventually, this is going to have a lot of extra stuff. Like, well, I don't know yet, but you'll be able to attach a script to a scene, just like in Godot. You know, I think that there needs the way this compositional framework for this GUI framework works is very composition based. So you're always, when you make something, you're composing a bunch of elements. Maybe you don't need a class for that, right? Maybe the class should just be, you know, something like a script in Godot where you define a class and then you attach it to a scene, right? So the class is added to a scene, and so you could attach that same class to many different scenes. I think that would be an interesting thing. And then you can draw what you want the thing to look like, and as long as the names are the same and the types are the same, you know, you can mix and match. They're decoupled. But also, and then you primarily deal with scenes rather than classes. So a scene is like the unit of composition in Godot, and I think that is probably what I'm going to do here. So we'll see. Okay, that's way down the line, but it's not too far down the line because this is what I'm dealing with right now. So we have a scene and we have things in the scene, and the names at the top level should be unique, and whatever. Maybe because GS object or rather BL element is so powerful that this doesn't really matter, because BL element already has a lot of interesting stuff there. But I think, you know, I may or may not keep this in Smalltalk, or I may port this to other things. And so I think having the placeholder for a GS scene is a good place. Also, you'll be able to serialize it. You should be able to load this from disk and save it to disk, and that's like a big thing that doesn't exist elsewhere. So that's enough rambling about that. So I represent the tracks in GsTimeline references core scene. When the frame changes in the timeline, it should trigger the, how it would say, GT class GS animator tells me to update the scene. that right? Is that sensible? Is that a sensible thing to do? Or ask, or rather, maybe I don't need the maybe I don't store the references here. That's what GsAnimator should do. GsAnimator should do that. I bind a GT class GsTimeline to a GsScene I store references to the to a GsScene. I bind a GsTimeline to a GsScene and provide and update the scene when the timeline's playhead moves. Playhead moves to a new frame. I got some serious wind coming in, just like hitting the air conditioner on my wall over here. I don't know, somehow I found a crack through the, I guess I gotta seal that up a little bit. Anyway, I store references to the corresponding scene elements. Yeah, whatever, we can talk about that later. All right, so I think those are the responsibilities. GsAnimator, it does this, and then GsAnimator tells me, or rather asks me for new property values. For a list of change, for the list of for a nested list of changed objects. Okay. Of changed properties. So this is something where I can actually write tests for this. Like this, I understand. I think. So, but we have nothing in it, so it's just an object right now. So we're gonna add this maybe even maybe move the thing from GsTimeline. Oops, B. So if I look at this, we've got events, check frame change, accessing, frame from playhead, make track list holder, add track for with keys. So I issue a GT class GS frame changed event when my playhead my playhead is dragged or scrolled over a new cell, over a new column, a different column, a new column, a different column. Okay. Now what? We want to move methods. We have add track for with keys. And just like we delegated this to the, we could probably say, okay, wait, hang on. In initialize, we say, instead of order dictionary new, we're going to say a new GS track model. track model new. And then in initialize, we're going to say super initialize. I'm not sure that is necessary, but then we're going to say data equals ordered dictionary new. Tracks. Tracks equals ordered dictionary new. Track data. What's going through my head is that there could be multiple tracks for the same object, and I want to show them all in one place, I would think. But I think it should be possible to. I think in Godot, this is not important right now but in Godot you can choose to show them grouped or ungrouped, and I think if they're ungrouped, then you can rearrange them. So maybe it's useful to, put, maybe you have two things that you want to move in unison. You want to put those two tracks next to each other, and decouple the, not necessarily keep all the tracks for one object together. I don't know. But I think for now we're going to do it like this. So it might be the case that we change that later, and so we're going to add this to track model, and we're going to save it. And then now we can say add track for a name of collection. Boom. We're going to add this as a method. Oh, hang on. I'm not sure. Let's add this piece by piece. Keys a collection. Okay, so what do we want this to return? Returns a track name. Maybe this should be a track list model. Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a track list model. Let's rename this to track list model. Is it a timeline model? I saw a book about naming things at Amazon. It was like one of the bestsellers apparently in programming books. It's called naming things. They say naming things is one of the hardest problems in programming. I'm going to call this a trackless model for now. Except it's not a list. So list makes it sound like a UI because it's a widget, right? And I think it's a timeline model. timeline model. And then this is the GsTimeline view, right? GsTimeline element or whatever. And then we have a track model. Then we would have a new thing called a track model. So and then, okay, so we say track names would be something, right? For this thing. So, okay, so timeline. Let's make this thing called timeline model. So, not a trackless model. It's a GsTimeline model. Oh, I didn't save this. So okay, that. Does that still exist? No. Just trackless model. It is. What? Does this exist yet or no? Yes. Go. It's not taking that. Whatever. GsTimeline model. I saw it change over here, but it didn't change. What's happening? I got to look right here. I'm going to click and I'm going to. Yeah, it's trying to rewrite that, but it doesn't. Try this again. GS track this model. Open a new one. Click on it. GsTimeline model. This could just be a bug in Glamorous here. What happened? It popped up a message here and then it went away. Yeah, GsTimeline, it's changed now. Okay, so references, did it? Yeah. So track model is called that, and let's rename that to view model. All right, so it has this thing called view model. Okay. And I'm not gonna use this thing anymore. So now let's add. I think the point of a view model is as it updates, it notifies the view, right? And it triggers the redraw of the view, and so it should send a bunch of events. But I haven't really studied enough about how block and how Brick does this. The documentation and examples are very sketchy on how view models work. There's no thing called a view model, right? Anything can be a view model. It's also 2:31. I have to go very quickly. So I think nothing is going to move on the screen here because I'm just moving stuff around. I'm not going to get this to work because I got to get at this data. I got to parse this data. Okay, well, so when we add track names, so we don't forget this. It's not going to do that. Got to sneeze. Okay. Okay. Pardon me. We don't need the track name because the track list items are going to be view model track names. And that can just be, well, track data, right? So view model I think I'm going to move this over as data. So here, instead of view model, whoops, yeah, view model, we're going to call this whatever it's called here, track data, right? Track data at track name. Put this. Put a collection. Okay, it won't be a collection eventually. It'll be a track model. View model, track list, items, view model, track names. Okay, the view model track list. Oh, wait. I don't need that. So the track list items. Right. Well, first we have to call this. So we have to call this on view model. That's what I was typing there. View model add track for. We call this relate to this. Move that there. Track names and then grid add child GS animation track new. Not size, we want length. Right? And we want a method called length here. Return track data size. I think that also is called length. I think you can use length there instead of size. Just because size seems to be like a geometric thing, but I think that's wrong. I think that's actually wrong. Right, size. Number track count. We're gonna name this track count. 300 changes. So no, we do not want to do that. Just delete this. Ah, come on. It says track count now. This is one instance where, like, you know, I actually wanted to keep that thing there, and I don't know how to get it back now. I don't know what I was looking at. You know, yeah, the danger of letting the UI handle some of your short-term memory is that you don't have it in your head when the UI changes. or it gets covered up by a window or something like that. All right, so anyway, this is just track data keys. And I guess I was probably looking at whatever's in here, right? Nope, not. This was, I provide data. I was looking at GsTime for a PT class GsTime. Geometry, accessing, mapping. A little cleaner, I think. Okay. Maybe instead of, since I'm putting this in the initialization, maybe I should call these init something. Like init scroll pane, init track list, all this stuff. We'll see. Okay. Anyway, I also want, in this little view, I want it, instead of having to open up over here, to open a coder underneath. So that you can do it side by side like this. So you can do the, you don't need three, don't wind up with three panes. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to cut this short. That's okay. Things take as long as they take. Am I wasting time? No, that's a good question. Make timeline. Oh, that's references, methods. Yeah, so eventually this is going to be this is going to return a track, probably a track model. So it should return a track model. But GS track model does not exist yet, so and we got rid of GS grid. All right, I'm going to check all this stuff in. So GS grid, GS group, GS scene. Initialize. Different here. And then GS timeline. I don't want any of this to be. I don't know why you can't just uncheck the whole thing. Right? Seems like it'd be the more sensible thing to do when you have a key like this. GS timeline model. So the first commit is remove GS group and GS grid. GSL. Remove GS group and GS grid. Block has better ways, has better ideas than my old stuff. let's commit those. This didn't affect anything, so I'll save that as a separate commit. GsAnimator has some comments. GsTimeline has some comments. Add track 4 with keys. Check frame change. First of all, I should test this actually works, right? Ooh, blah 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 blah. Popped up. Collection must be indexable, but was GsTimelineModel. Item. Add track 4 with keys. Track name. Oh, because GS return track data keys. And likewise, I believe track count. I didn't, yeah. I didn't put a return in it. If I restart this, that should work. GsTimelineModel did not understand length. Track count. I really like in this debugger. All right, so now it works. Just let me try it again. Boom. Frames count is changing at the top. Nothing is happening here yet. I gotta go. In fact, I don't even have time to check all this in. All right, so I'll check all this in and come back in a little while. Hopefully I'll have time tonight. Gotta go pick up my daughter from camp, so yeah, I'll see you later. Yeah, I have more to say, but I want to recap, but I don't have time. So bye.